I decided to order my little brother some boba tea, the first of the fall, with a special note for the delivery driver. To my darling boy, my husband found out about us. This is the only way I can reach you now. See you at our spot on Saturday. Mommy's gonna spoil you rotten. I even specifically asked the driver to read it out loud for him. So, I asked him later, was it thrilling? My brother replied, I accidentally put my buddy's address. He's a college professor. And he was in the middle of a lecture. Some people may look calm on the outside, but on the inside, they've already died a little. I frantically called the delivery driver, trying to salvage the situation. But he just yelled at me, furious. I thought it was a home delivery. You wanted me to shout that in front of a whole class of students? I can never show my face there again. I quickly Venmo'd him some money for his emotional distress, and he finally let it go. But the person I should really be worried about now is that professor. Having something like that announced in front of his entire class, what if he becomes a total recluse because of me? I immediately called my brother. He was on the other end, laughing so hard he could barely breathe. Sis, what did you do? Ha ha ha, he totally blocked me, ha ha ha. I covered my face in despair. I just wanted to pull a little prank, but I took it way too far. Driven by a complex mix of emotions, I flew to my brother's city and beat the crap out of him. Now it was his turn to be in despair. Have mercy, my lady. He cried, bruised and tear-streaked. Here's Lewis Morgan's address and phone number. So, the next day, I went to his university, personally bringing a cake and flowers to apologize. I pushed open the office door and was met by the sight of a handsome, cool-looking man with gold-rimmed glasses. He made a simple black shirt look like the epitome of chic. His expression was placid, yet he had this inexplicable pull. Hi, I stammered, I'm looking for Professor Morgan. He stared at me warily, then after a moment of silence, replied, he's not here. Not here? I put down the flowers, a little disappointed, and pulled out an envelope. Well, in that case, I'll just... Before I could finish, the man snatched the letter from my hand, his cool gaze turning sharp. What are you going to read this time? I stuttered, and nothing to read. This is my apology letter. He unfolded the note, his brow smoothing over as he read it. Ah, so that's what happened. The man glanced at me gently. Since you're so sincere, then. I bowed a full 90 degrees. I am so sorry. Even though Professor Morgan isn't here, please pass on my apologies to him. I'm too embarrassed to ever face him. He listened in surprise, then let out a soft chuckle. It's not a big deal. You didn't do it on purpose. Who knew? This handsome guy was pretty broad-minded. But Lewis Morgan might not forgive me so easily. He must be grinding his teeth in anger right now. So I urged the handsome stranger to make sure Lewis Morgan got back to me. It would be safer to schedule a time to apologize in person. But fate had other plans. Due to a work emergency, I had to fly back to my company that night. That handsome guy must be good friends with Lewis Morgan, because Lewis texted me the same night I got back. I understand the whole story. It's fine, don't worry about it. I wanted to hug my phone and cry. Are all university professors this kind? The cool, handsome guy was like this, and so was Professor Morgan. But even though he forgave me, I still wanted to show my sincerity. With that in mind, I requested a video call. If I couldn't apologize in person, a face-to-face on the phone was the next best thing. He texted back, I'm not at the university, please don't. But my fingers were faster than my eyes. I had already hit the call button. Not only that, he picked up. And so there I was, sitting bolt upright in my dark bedroom, having a 21st century staring contest with a boardroom full of men in suits. I was stunned. They were even more stunned. What in the world was happening? The men around him looked on respectfully as the cool, handsome guy sat at the head of a long table, apparently in the middle of a meeting. Seeing my shocked expression, he sighed, a mix of helplessness and gentleness in his voice. I'm overseas. My eyes widened. But aren't you a university professor? He nodded. It's a side hustle. I run a company. I guess professors do have a lot of side gigs, but this was the first time I'd seen one who runs a company. I honestly wanted to faint right then and there. I grabbed a pillow to hide my face. But that doesn't make sense. I'm video calling Professor Morgan, why did you answer? A man who looked like an assistant spoke up. Mr. Morgan, the meeting. He waved his hand, signaling for a pause. The men in suits began to pack up their things and file out of the office. Mr. Morgan? It finally clicked. Lewis Morgan and the cool, handsome guy were the same person. He probably denied it when we met because he was afraid I'd pull another crazy stunt. Just how dark and terrifying of a memory had I created for this poor man? And I just interrupted his meeting. Isn't that like embarrassing him in front of his employees all over again? This kind of psychological scar couldn't be fixed with a simple apology. At that thought, my face crumpled like a bitter melon. Lewis Morgan crossed his long legs, still sitting there with an air of calm, elegant composure. He was a world away from the cool, gentle professor I'd met before. The powerful CEO aura radiating off him was attacking my nerves from every possible angle. This time, he was really angry. Miss Camilla Bailey, you've messed things up for me twice now. Don't you think you owe me an explanation? Looking at his half-smiling face, I wanted to hit myself with a brick. The last incident was almost behind us, but no, I just had to make a video call and dig myself into an even deeper hole. I forced a laugh. Mr. Morgan, Professor Morgan, I really wasn't targeting you on purpose. Lewis Morgan's long, strong fingers tapped lightly on the table. I don't believe you. Who would believe it? Only an idiot like me could screw up twice in a row. I quickly grabbed the book I'd prepared for this apology, The Art of Persuasion. The book said that if he doesn't believe you, more explanations are useless. The only thing to do is to go along with what he's saying. So, my gaze hardened with resolve. You're right. I did it on purpose. He paused for a moment, raising an eyebrow. Oh. So why, exactly, are you targeting me? I squeezed my eyes shut. Because my little brother refuses to date. Lewis Morgan's smile froze. His expression suggested he had a very bad feeling about this. Sorry, little bro. Sis will buy you your favorite snacks when I get home. I think he might not be straight, so I looked into his friends and found that you were. My eyes blazed with the conviction of a new convert. The most handsome, the tallest, the most capable. The most stable, mature, and charming man of them all. After a moment of silence, I felt like something was missing, so I kept going. Therefore, I believe you are the only one worthy of being my brother's boyfriend. After finally shouting it all out, I dared to look back at the phone screen. Only to see that the men in suits, who had just filed out, had all somehow reappeared in the office. They were all frozen in place, with beads of cold sweat on their foreheads. Mr. Morgan, sorry, we just found a mistake in the document, we won't disturb you. And with that, they scrambled away like they were being chased by a ghost. My mouth hung open, and I was rooted to the spot. Lewis Morgan rubbed his temples, his expression a mixture of exasperation and a hint of a smile. A third time, this was the third time. Oh, heavens above. Can the earth please open up and swallow me whole? I'd finally figured it out. With my level of intelligence, not only would I make this situation worse, but I'd probably escalate it to a point of no return. So, under Lewis Morgan's death stare, I hung up the video call with lightning speed. The next second, I was on the phone with my brother. Bro. Code red. Save a life and you'll build a 7-story pagoda. He hung up on me instantly. I called back. 500. Deal. What can I do for you, sis? I took a deep breath and told him everything. There was silence on the other end. Then came the thunderous sound of him pounding the floor. Ha 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 ha, sis, you're a true comedic genius, ha ha ha. Lewis Morgan was a perfectly normal guy, and you've practically driven him crazy, ha 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 ha. I gritted my teeth menacingly. Are you going to help me or not? He finally stopped laughing and said, pay the deposit first. I immediately transferred him $250. The next day, I took the day off work and snuck over to the university entrance with my brother. Dressed like a spy, my brother whispered, that guy usually shows up around this time. I looked closely, and sure enough, Lewis Morgan was walking onto campus with the flow of students. He still had that cool demeanor, and his physique was still on point. Except, he was bundled up like he was trying to fend off a swarm of bees. My brother sidled up to me with a sly grin. Looks like he's seriously traumatized. I whipped around and smacked him. A spinning kick was my way of giving him a taste of the cruel world. This mission must succeed. Failure is not an option. Sitting in a university lecture hall, especially in the back row, naturally put me in a relaxed and happy mood. The young men and women around me were chattering away. You're here for Professor Morgan's lecture too? Brilliant and handsome Lewis Morgan, who isn't here for him? Professor Morgan has a nickname like that? Listening to the students' endless discussion, I couldn't help but think, it's great to have brains. Even the nicknames they come up with are so fitting. This was an open lecture, so outsiders were allowed. It was a God-given opportunity. I had it all planned out. As soon as class was over, my brother would intercept him, and I would personally hand over the apology gift I had prepared. If he still didn't forgive me, well, that was understandable after how awful I'd been. In that case, I would just leave him alone for good. With that thought, I temporarily set aside my worries and started to listen intently to Lewis Morgan's lecture. He took off his black jacket, revealing a crisp white shirt underneath. The collar was slightly open, and the sleeves were rolled up to his mid-forearms. The hand holding the laser pointer was long and slender, with well-defined knuckles. Isn't there a saying? Restraint is the most effective form of seduction. Lewis Morgan began to speak, his cool, clear voice echoing through the packed lecture hall. Economic knowledge requires not just theory, but more importantly, practice. Everyone listened quietly to his words, looking thoughtful. He was teaching business, using plain language to explain highly technical terms and connecting them closely to reality. Even I, who knew little about economics, was listening attentively. Everyone was captivated by his classroom charm. Even my usually restless brother was focused on the stage. It wasn't until the continuous clicking of camera shutters and applause that I was pulled back to reality. Brilliant and handsome Lewis Morgan, he really lived up to his name. After the lecture came the Q&A session. Students and some entrepreneurs who had come to hear him speak asked questions related to the current business landscape. My brother excitedly shook my arm. The Morgan Group they're talking about, that's his company. These guys are all worried that this multinational corporation's sudden move into the mainland will steal their business, but they had no idea the CEO himself was giving them the lecture. Ha 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 ha. I wiped a cold sweat from my brow. The most advanced business warfare is often waged in the simplest of ways. The next question was a bit more playful. A girl shot her hand up. Professor Morgan. Do you have a girlfriend? The once quiet classroom instantly became a little rowdy. An assistant quickly tried to maintain order, but Lewis Morgan just shook his head. Not yet. The atmosphere warmed up, and the crowd got excited as if a fuse had been lit. So what's your type? Someone let out a long ooh, and teasing laughter filled the room. Lewis Morgan paused for a second, surprisingly not shying away from the question. He even seemed to consider it seriously for a few moments. Probably someone brave, outgoing, and a little bit clumsy. After he said it, both he and the audience seemed a bit stunned. No one expected that answer. The gentle and restrained Professor Morgan was into a type completely opposite of himself? This time, without needing a specific question, everyone asked in unison, why? Lewis Morgan was silent for a moment, then let out a muffled laugh. Because it would be fun. I'd want to laugh all the time. But I'm a bit boring. Now that I think about it, I'm actually scared she'd find me dull. The entire room gasped. The brilliant Lewis Morgan, afraid of being rejected? She? My brother, hearing this, puffed up like an angry rooster. Lewis Morgan already has someone in mind? Seriously? And he didn't tell me. Some friend he is. After a moment, his expression turned strange. But always happy and a bit clumsy? Isn't that just a ditz? Lewis Morgan likes ditzy girls? I was also confused. Yeah, what a weird preference in a partner. Suddenly, someone in the crowd shouted, like that girl who sent you the boba tea the other day? The whole room erupted in laughter. My face darkened. It seemed like everyone here knew about the screw-up from a few days ago. But to everyone's surprise, Lewis Morgan smiled and nodded. Yes, just like that. The crowd went wild. A girl next to me was shaking her friend, her face a mask of despair. Oh my God. Professor Morgan likes funny girls. I'd been going about it all wrong. My brother looked like he'd just eaten something terrible. The boba tea? The mommy's gonna spoil you rotten one? Wasn't that you? He looked at me in horror. It's over. Lewis Morgan really does like ditzy girls. I really wanted to smack him. Neither of us could figure out what had gotten into Lewis Morgan today, so we decided to stick to the plan. The moment the bell rang, my brother charged forward. But we miscalculated. There were just too many people. The media wanting to interview Lewis Morgan were blocking the doorway, making it impossible to get through. I'm short, and I was getting crushed, feeling like a fish flailing in the water. From a distance, Lewis Morgan suddenly glanced in my direction. When he saw me, he froze for a second, the tips of his ears turning a little red. It's over. He recognized me. Seeing my flailing arms, he strode towards me, parting the crowded throng, his brows slightly furrowed. Are you okay? Are you hurt? My flushed face could finally breathe. When I looked up again, we were the only two left in the middle of the crowd. My brother was hopping around like a monkey on the outskirts, unable to squeeze his way in. Being stared at by so many people, I was so embarrassed I wanted to find a hole to crawl into. But this was an opportunity one couldn't miss. If we got separated by the crowd again, he might not want to see me next time. With that thought, I gritted my teeth, stamped my foot, and pulled out the apology gift I had prepared. Professor Morgan, I'm so sorry about before. It was all because I didn't understand the situation and acted too hastily, causing you so much trouble. I'm really sorry. I said this with genuine sincerity. My personality really had caused him a lot of trouble. At that moment, my brother finally broke through the crowd and stood in front of me, grinning. That's right, Lewis. My sister's just like me, a bit of a klutz since we were kids. She means no harm. Lewis Morgan smiled warmly. I know. Great. There's hope. Encouraged by my brother's look, I handed him the gift. I made this vase at a pottery studio. Before I could finish, a strong force from behind sent me stumbling. It felt like a piece of media equipment had fallen on me. I was pushed off balance and instinctively grabbed onto something to steady myself. With a loud rip, the entire room fell silent. My brother, now standing in his underwear, let out a yelp and jumped. The vase fell to the floor and shattered. Thankfully, no one was hurt. I didn't know what to do, reaching down to pick up the pieces. The scene was chaotic. The reporter who had knocked into me was yelling from behind. It's all your fault, standing in the way. I can't get a shot. A large hand with well-defined knuckles grabbed mine, his presence sharp and cold. Lewis Morgan's eyes narrowed, a storm of anger brewing within them. I screwed up again. My self-blame peaked, and a feeling of helplessness washed over me. It was always like this. I could never change my careless, clumsy nature, always causing trouble for others. And when I tried to fix my mistakes, I only made things worse, one misstep after another. I remembered my mom's yelling after I broke a bowl as a child, "Camila, why can't you do anything right?" Maybe I really couldn't do anything right. I wanted to run away, but his grip pulled me back. Apologize to her. Lewis Morgan's eyes darkened, a fire smoldering inside. The reporter's confidence faltered. Why should I? She was blocking my way. So you deliberately shoved her with your equipment? Lewis Morgan sneered. You're with Ether Media, right? You want to partner with the Morgan Group? Based on your character just now, you're not qualified. His words hit like a stone dropped into a calm pond, causing a huge stir. This was tantamount to publicly revealing his identity as the head of the Morgan Group. The media instantly went into a frenzy. The reporter who had pushed me looked panicked and opened his mouth to apologize, but Lewis Morgan had already grabbed my hand and pulled me out of the crowd. You don't have to accept an insincere apology. We walked all the way to the office from the other day. Lewis Morgan took out a first aid kit to clean my wound. It was only then I noticed I had scraped my knee when I fell. I sat down numbly as he guided me, not saying a word. In the silence, Lewis Morgan looked a bit helpless. Are you angry? I didn't want you to pick up the shards because I was afraid you'd cut your hand. I couldn't hold it in anymore. I really couldn't. I started to sob quietly. He quickly handed me a tissue. I cried, gasping for breath, I'm sorry, I'm so sorry. I really came to apologize. I didn't think the vase would break, I didn't think I'd mess up again, I'm sorry. I don't really like to cry because I don't like feeling sad. But I couldn't help it. When the pressure gets to be too much, and someone suddenly bursts into your life like a ray of light and is so gentle, you just can't hold back. I was afraid Lewis Morgan would find me annoying, so I didn't dare to cry loudly. But he gently patted my back. It's okay to cry. You don't have to say you're sorry. This wasn't your fault. With each gentle "it wasn't your fault," I finally began to wail. He quietly wiped my tears, his movements gentle, his gaze focused. When my wailing subsided into whimpers, Lewis Morgan slowly let me go and continued to treat my wound. I looked at the soft hair on top of his head, and my heart softened. I started to mumble. But the other times really were my fault. He gave a soft But you apologized sincerely, and you didn't do it on purpose, right? I pouted. Right. I thought for a moment, then lowered my head again. Not on purpose, but I always cause trouble for others. You're not trouble, Lewis Morgan said as he finished cleaning my wound and started packing up the first aid kit. Everyone really likes you. I stared at him blankly. The day you video called, the executives were all smiling and saying how cute you were. And they're usually a very serious bunch. To convince me, he even tried to imitate their expressions. Really? Is that true? I felt like crying again, so I quickly changed the subject. But I also lied. That whole thing with my brother, I made it up. Lewis Morgan let out a low laugh. I pulled out a book and showed it to him. It's all its fault. I got the idea for the boba tea note from here too. That's right, it was that copy of The Art of Persuasion. Lewis Morgan held the book, his eyes crinkling into two crescent moons as he laughed, speechless. Watching him laugh like that, I felt a strange sense of bewilderment. What was so funny? My words always seemed to hit his funny bone. I couldn't help but think of his reason for wanting a partner, to make him happy, to make him want to laugh all the time. Just then, the office door was thrown open with great force. My brother stormed in, still in his ripped pants, cursing. Sis. I can't believe you. You rip my pants off in broad daylight, and then you just leave with him without even a second glance at me. The love is gone. My face flushed bright red. What nonsense. I raised my hand and gave him a smack. After the crying jag, I belatedly realized how embarrassing I'd been. I didn't see Lewis Morgan for the next few days. But my mind kept wandering back to him. I slammed my hand on the table. Oh no. I'm developing a crush. It's not my fault. Lewis Morgan is criminally handsome. And he's a professor and a CEO, and he's so gentle. Who could resist that? I wailed to my brother, on the verge of tears. Maybe I should watch a few true crime documentaries to cool my head? My brother was amazed. Sis, you're totally his type. Doesn't he like ditzy girls? I gave him a huge slap. That shut him up. He then raised a small fist and cheered me on in a squeaky voice. You're so cool, sis. You're awesome. He was on the bus that day too. He totally loves you. What bus? My brother looked at me. No way, sis, he didn't tell you? Lewis Morgan was right there when you saved that person. His words threw me back to a hot summer day. My brother and I were on a bus when a crazed man suddenly rushed the driver and tried to grab the steering wheel. I was very close to the driver, so I saw the man hold a small knife to the neck of a child in his arms. He hissed in a low voice, "Drive this bus into the river, or you'll be the one who killed this kid." The driver was sweating profusely, completely at a loss. Trying to kill a bus full of people and using a child as a threat? As the reigning queen of slaps, how could I stand for that? I gave him a huge smack right on the spot and knocked him out cold. The crazy man was sleeping like a baby. The child, startled, started wailing. But I had no experience with kids, and the more I tried to soothe him, the more he cried. Just then, a handsome man in a white face mask gently patted the child and began to sing a lullaby. His voice was soft, clear, and melodious. The child quickly calmed down, and the police arrived soon after. He was the handsome guy in the white mask? Why didn't you tell me sooner? My brother looked aggrieved. You never asked. I raised my hand. My brother dropped to his knees. Sis, I'm sorry, I didn't know he hadn't told you. We had a series of screw-ups right after we met. He probably never had a chance to bring it up. And knocking a man out with a single slap on our first meeting, does Lewis Morgan see me as some kind of muscle-bound warrior princess? That's not the right image at all. Shouldn't I be gentle, sweet, and demure? As I was stewing in my anxiety, my phone rang. It was Lewis Morgan. My brother was cheering me on from the side. Go for it, sis. Be proactive if you want to get a good man. That Lewis guy is pretty passive. It's obvious he's never hit on a girl before. He's a good, loyal guy. Talk to him in a sweet, gentle voice, and you'll definitely win him over. I kicked him, thinking to myself, sweet and gentle, sweet and gentle. I put on a high-pitched voice. Hello? There was a pause on the other end. I'm looking for Camila Bailey. This is Camila. No, you're not. Forget sweet and gentle. I smacked my brother, then barked into the phone in my normal voice, "What's up?" My brother rubbed his backside and walked away, looking satisfied. Once I was using my normal voice, I found out that Lewis Morgan wanted to invite me to a gala. Is it finally time for the CEO part of the story? My brother was shouting excitedly next to me. Sis. Take me with you. I'm your strategic advisor. So, we both got dressed up and waited for our ride. I thought a driver from the Morgan Group would pick us up, but it was Lewis Morgan himself who stepped out of the Maybach. He was in a black suit, his profile slightly blurred by the dim light, but the lines of his face were sharp and defined. He had a natural air of elegance and nobility. My brother and I both gasped. Oh my God, the CEO from a novel has come to life. When he saw me, his eyes lit up, and he walked straight over. It's chilly tonight. Put this on. With that, he draped the coat he was carrying over my shoulders. I grinned like an idiot. My brother muttered, and here, a man as proud as an eagle sheds a tear. I punched him on the head. After he finally quieted down, sitting in the car, I suddenly didn't know what to say. Looking at Lewis Morgan's gentle, handsome profile, I felt a wave of insecurity. Are we really from the same world? Why does this feel like a dream? With that thought, I pulled out my tablet. My brother peeked over. "What are you watching, sis?" "A documentary about surviving in the wilderness." We both fell silent. When we finally arrived at the gala, as Lewis Morgan's date, I tried to naturally link my arm with his. The grand hall was bustling and brightly lit, with glasses clinking. People kept coming up to chat with Lewis Morgan. He would give a few brief replies, all while keeping a protective arm around me in the crowded room. "I'm sorry, is this a bit boring for you?" I looked up at him. Lewis Morgan seemed a little anxious, his Adam's apple bobbing nervously. How strange. The usually calm and composed Professor Morgan, why was he making this face so often in front of me? Not at all. "This is my first time at an event like this, it's so inters." Before I could finish, a shriek came from up ahead. I stood on my tiptoes to see. A glamorous-looking woman had accidentally bumped into a large marble decoration by the door and was clutching her forehead, crying out in pain. The portly man whose arm she was holding turned around with a look of disgust and snapped, "Stop making a scene. You're embarrassing me." My brother pointed at the woman. "Isn't that Jessica?" Jessica? The A-list actress? This gala was seriously high class, you could even see celebrities. He continued to whisper in my ear, "Sis, you better be careful. She's a former employee of the Morgan Group who chased Lewis for a long time. Now she's signed with that fat boss's company, but she's still causing trouble." Seriously? Is this considered celebrity gossip? "I bet the paparazzi would pay a lot for this story," I said, my eyes gleaming with excitement. He rolled his eyes at me. The crowd continued to move forward, and like a hawk, I instantly locked onto a bowl of ice cream cake on a small table. My brother got the signal and squeezed through the crowd to get it for me. Lewis Morgan went to get me a drink from the back. I was happily walking forward, head down, when suddenly, bam. My head spun. Nice one. A nice hit to the head. That's right. I had walked straight into the same marble decoration that Jessica had just hit. The situation was incredibly awkward. I could say I wasn't an idiot, and no one would believe me. People around me were whispering and looking me up and down with a hint of disdain. I remembered the scene of Jessica getting yelled at by her boss, and I belatedly realized that I was Lewis Morgan's guest. By doing this, I was embarrassing him. Just then, Lewis Morgan came striding over, looking furious. I squeezed my eyes shut, bracing for a scolding, but a warm touch covered my forehead instead. "Who put this decoration here? Get it removed." "Huh?" I opened one eye and caught a glimpse of Lewis Morgan's angry profile. He was gently stroking the spot where I hit my head. The waitstaff, looking terrified, started to dismantle the decoration. A hush fell over the room. No one dared to gossip anymore. Lewis Morgan didn't say anything else. He just took my hand and led me into the main hall without stopping. Our seats were in the front row. After I sat down, he knelt in front of me, his eyes filled with worry. "Sit here for a bit, I'll go find some medicine." I whispered weakly, "You don't have to. It was just a small bump, it would probably heal on its own in a few minutes." But Lewis Morgan insisted on going and left the main hall. My brother, with a small pastry in his mouth and 2 ice cream cakes in his hands, finally squeezed his way to me. "Sis, are you okay?" I look away for 1 second, "And you get hurt again?" I waved my hand wearily, and in my peripheral vision, I caught a venomous glare. My brother looked back warily. Why do I feel a chill on the back of my neck? We devoured the ice cream cake at lightning speed. I had a bad feeling that if we didn't eat it now, we wouldn't get another chance. Sure enough, Jessica came swaying towards us. She had just been posing for photos, and the big screen in the hall was still following her. The entire room was watching us. "Excuse me, miss. The final auction item for this evening has suddenly been stolen, and you were the only person who passed by it. Would you mind consenting to a search?" What does she mean? Is she accusing me of stealing? Before I could say anything, a few men dressed as security guards pushed my brother aside and started searching my bag. Strangely enough, a bracelet that didn't belong to me appeared in my bag. This is a piece personally designed by Mr. Morgan. What exactly is your motive? Jessica pointed at me, her voice high and triumphant, her eyes filled with glee. Oh my God, a frame-up. A classic trope from novels. I squeezed my palms to calm myself down. What proof do you have? Show me the security footage. As luck would have it, the cameras were broken. The evidence is clear. The bracelet is in your bag. Stop denying it. Jessica held her head high like a fighting rooster. Such venomous acting. Usually, in a novel, the heroine would have a trick up her sleeve at this point, catching the villain off guard and revealing the real security footage. But I'm not a heroine. Under the gaze of so many people, my mind went completely blank, and I could only weakly cry out. It really wasn't me. Oh my God, I'm not only clumsy but also bad with words. I despise myself. Just then, Lewis Morgan rushed over with a first aid kit. All eyes in the room turned to him. Jessica's eyes welled up with tears, and she instantly transformed into a delicate, bullied victim. Mr. Morgan, you're finally here. What kind of person did you bring? She silently stole the final auction item that you personally designed and refuses to admit it. Could she be a spy from another company? My brother shouted from the sidelines, you two-faced shrew. You were so aggressive without any proof just now, and now you're playing the victim. You're as two-faced as they come. Jessica shot him a vicious glare, her face turning red. But for some reason, Lewis Morgan, who should have been angry, now had a sparkle in his eyes. You saw the bracelet? Do you like it? I wanted to bury my head in the sand. I mumbled, I really didn't take it. The light in Lewis Morgan's eyes dimmed, and he even looked a little disappointed. He was disappointed that I didn't take the bracelet. But he quickly snapped back to reality, his tone cold and hard. Jessica, she wasn't the only one who passed the display case. So did you. The footage can be recovered through technical means. I can wait. Jessica's face turned deathly pale. A few minutes later, a technician from the Morgan Group came over with a video. Lewis Morgan, giving her a taste of her own medicine, projected it onto the big screen. The first clip showed Jessica bumping her head, but her hands secretly slipped into the display case and grabbed the bracelet. The second clip showed me bumping my head, and her pretending to casually walk by and slip it into my bag. Well, my brother and I said, munching on some nuts like we were watching a movie. This technician was a real pro. Faced with the ridicule and hostility of the entire room, Jessica couldn't help but burst into tears. Mr. Morgan, I've always liked you. That's why I was foolish enough to do this. But I'm not convinced. This woman is average looking, has an average figure, isn't very smart, and is clumsy in everything she does. How is she worthy of you? She wailed dramatically. The portly boss squeezed through the crowd and slapped her. You're a disgrace to the company. Kneel and apologize to Mr. Morgan. He was about to hit her again, but I couldn't stand it and gave him a slap. What kind of man hits a woman? Youth is a wonderful thing. He went down and stayed down. Jessica stared at me blankly. Lewis Morgan's eyes were glistening. Jessica, who told you that women have to be confined by those standards? Their height, weight, and body shape are their own freedom. What they say and do is also their freedom. Why should Camila be subjected to your judgment? You saw it just now. Camila can do what you don't have the courage to do. You secretly and selfishly plotted against her, but Camila didn't hold a grudge. She never sets limits for herself, and that's why I like her. But you, Jessica, the one who sets limits for you has always been yourself. My brother and I stared, our mouths agape. What did he just say? Did he just secretly confess his feelings? Jessica's face was flushed, and she lowered her head in shame. Lewis Morgan took my hand, his voice firm and cold. Also, women should be the most understanding and supportive of each other. But you constantly label and shackle other women, and those same things have also bound you. It's truly pathetic." With that, he didn't linger any longer and led me straight out of the venue. We were out on the street, and Lewis Morgan was applying medicine to my forehead before I could even process what had happened. I stared up at him blankly and finally managed to squeeze out, You're so articulate." Lewis Morgan was instantly doubled over with laughter. After a moment, he took out the bracelet from earlier. "Do you know what this means?" I looked closely at the piece, which sparkled even more brightly in the light. A small string of letters was engraved on it. C and L. Camila and Louis. Below it was a line in French. "If your heart feels the same as mine, then take it with you." I think I knew why Lewis Morgan was disappointed when he heard I didn't take it. Actually, I was planning to give it to you during the auction today. The starting bid was $1, reserved for a specific person. If I agreed, I would bid on it. If I refused, Lewis Morgan would bid on it himself. What a sophisticated and respectful way to confess. Right now, Lewis Morgan looked like a puppy about to be adopted, his eyes filled with a mixture of hope and nervousness. I fidgeted with my fingers. "You like me?" "Why?" He chuckled, a distant look in his eyes. "The first time I saw you, I thought you were so brave." I looked at his hopeful eyes, and my heart ached. "Listen to me, Lewis. I don't think we're a good match." He froze for a moment, then looked dejected. I placed my hands on his shoulders and looked at him seriously. "I'm not as brave as you think. I'm not confident either. You've seen it yourself, I mess things up and don't know how to fix them. I just freeze up and don't know what to do. I always have to wait for you to come and save me. I feel so incompetent and stupid." Lewis Morgan listened intently, then suddenly leaned in and gently hugged me. "That's your reason for rejecting me? I thought you were going to say I'm too boring, so we're not a good match." "Camila, love can make people feel insecure. We're both the same. You think you're always messing things up and causing trouble for me, but have you ever considered that I willingly accompany you and enjoy protecting you? It's not that you need me. It has always been me who needs you." His gentle voice swirled around my ear, and my heart pounded. Oh my God. This is against the rules. Watching documentaries about surviving in the wilderness won't help now. No. No. I have to be realistic. I closed my eyes and tried again. But our family backgrounds are so different. I'm just a regular person, and you're a professor and a CEO. I'm afraid. I opened my eyes and found that Lewis Morgan had somehow gotten so close to me. As our breaths mingled, he whispered softly. "Afraid of what?" Afraid your mom won't like me, that we'll have mother-in-law drama. Afraid of the temptations of a wealthy family, that you'll cheat. Afraid that you're just acting, and you'll be abusive after we're married. Real life isn't a novel. I'm not greedy, I just want a happy and peaceful life. It's over. My brain short-circuited, and my mouth ran away with me again, spilling everything out. Lewis Morgan's eyes crinkled into crescent moons again. "So you're just like me, thinking so far ahead. Don't be afraid. My parents are wonderful people, and they already know I like you. I'm a loyal guy, I won't cheat, and I have no abusive tendencies. If you're still worried, I can go get a full physical examination." With that, he buried his head in my shoulder, muffling his laughter. "There's no one else in the world who can make me laugh like this, Camila." The survival documentary in my brain refused to load. I knew I was done for. I let out a long sigh. Isn't this just a cliché story of a CEO falling for a ditzy girl? Lewis Morgan lifted his head from my shoulder, his eyes glistening. "Well then, Ms. Ditzy Girl, do you have the heart to refuse me? He's trying to seduce me." I leaned in with a mischievous grin and gave him a peck. "Professor Morgan, you win." As we were kissing, I suddenly remembered that Lewis Morgan had said something earlier that sounded familiar. When he heard me say that, he was even more delighted. Then he pulled out a book. I glanced at the cover. The Art of Persuasion. The End. Epilogue. Hello everyone, I'm Camila's little brother. For those of you who have read this far, you should know that my life is pretty tragic. While they were dating, I was the one who always got beat up. But I'm not mad at all. In fact, I was thrilled to be the best man at their wedding. Seeing my sister, her eyes full of happiness, my own eyes suddenly welled up. When we were young, our mother was very possessive. I was a mischievous kid and always resisted by avoiding her and playing around. Life went on, and I never thought there was a problem. Until that day, when there was the sound of a bowl shattering in the kitchen. It was a small thing. A bowl was left on the edge of the table, got knocked off accidentally, and broke. I was a rascal and did things like that all the time. Mom would scold me a bit, and then she'd clean it up. But my sister suddenly froze, as if someone had hit the pause button. From a distance, she didn't seem to react, but if you got closer, you could see her whole body was trembling. I tentatively called out, "Sis." She jumped as if pricked by a needle and immediately bent down to pick up the ceramic shards. Her hand was cut, and blood was everywhere, but she seemed to feel nothing. As she picked up the pieces, she kept repeating in a shaky voice, "I'm sorry, I'm sorry, I'm sorry." I was stunned. It was only then I realized something was wrong with my sister. A little while later, Mom came over. I thought she would ask my sister if she was hurt. But when she saw the scene on the floor, she flew into a rage. "Camila! What have you done? Why can't you do anything right? What did I raise you for? You ungrateful jinx." Her voice was loud, sharp, and she kept shaking my sister's arm. Whenever this happened, would always run away in annoyance. But my sister, my quiet, gentle sister, she didn't know how to run away or deny it. She just took it all in. She would really take it to heart, thinking that she truly couldn't do anything right, that she was a failure. I finally understood that my freedom came at the cost of my sister constantly bearing the weight of our mother's pressure. My heart ached for her. Later, I consulted a psychologist who told me it was likely a trauma response. In the future, whenever she encountered a similar situation, her brain would protect itself by going blank. It's because of this that my sister slowly recovered under my protection. That's why I always told my sister, "It's actually kind of good that you're so clumsy and out of it." At least it could temporarily protect her from feeling that panic. When I grew up, I used my own money to buy an apartment in another city and put it in my sister's name. If one of us can escape our toxic family environment first, let it be you. As I was lost in thought, a shattering sound came from the front of the wedding hall. It was my sister. She had accidentally broken the plate of the rotating cake stand. The whole room fell silent. It was like being transported back more than a decade ago, the image of that helpless little girl trembling flashing in my mind. I shot up from my seat, about to rush over. But a pair of hands reached her first, holding hers. Lewis Morgan smiled and hugged my sister. "It's okay. Breaking things brings good luck." My sister looked up at him and said a few more words, probably apologizing again. I couldn't hear clearly. He rested his head on her shoulder, his gentle eyes like water. "Camila, I'm happy to be troubled by you. I want to be troubled by you for the rest of my life. Let me see, did you hurt your hand?" Lewis Morgan bustled about, but he was smiling willingly. I stopped in my tracks, grinning like a fool. "You lucky bastard, you deserve this happiness." Epilogue. My name is Lewis Morgan. Because I was born into a wealthy family, I was kidnapped as a child. After that incident, I developed a condition where my hands and feet would freeze up in emergency situations. So on the bus that day, even though I was only a few steps away from the kidnapped child, I could only watch helplessly. Just as the lunatic's knife was about to touch the child, a girl suddenly stood up and slapped him. That slap knocked the kidnapper out cold. I was amazed. Such a small frame, yet such great power. After the slap, she even kicked him a few times for good measure, full of righteous indignation. The commotion made the child start to cry. She tried to soothe him, completely flustered, but ended up holding him upside down. The child cried even harder, and I couldn't help but want to laugh. Seeing her expression grow more and more panicked, I felt a pang of sympathy. So I softly began to hum a lullaby. After that incident, I often thought of that girl's delicate yet brave silhouette. My personality is rather reserved, and I'm not good at proactively asking for a girl's number. I couldn't stop regretting that I hadn't summoned the courage that day. But then my friends suddenly sent me a message. You won't believe it, my sister was so heroic. She knocked out a thug with her bare hands and saved the whole bus. It turned out that fate had taken a detour, but it still led back here in the end. So I often chatted with him about his sister. She was so interesting. Even when her words were relayed through someone else, would find myself smiling foolishly at my phone for ages. One day, my friend said, "My sister's buying me boba tea." Woohoo! I looked at the delivery address. It was clearly my university, but he hadn't noticed at all. Those two siblings really had the same personality. But I didn't remind him. I've been honest for 27 years. A little white lie shouldn't hurt, right? But I never expected that her next entrance into my world would be so explosive and unique. After we got married, Camila asked me, if it weren't for that boba tea, would we have never gotten together? Were you really angry back then? She didn't know that on that day, my entire class saw me on the lecture stage, laughing more joyfully than I ever had before. And, my silly Camila, have you ever heard the saying? All chance encounters are secretly planned. Epilogue. Hello, I am The Art of Persuasion. I am a very philosophical book. I always believed I would cause a sensation upon publication. I imagined my buyer would be an old scholar or an artist. But I never expected a goofy-looking young girl to pick me up, staring at me with wide eyes and saying, "Apologizing is a skill? And it's on sale? Yep. You're the one." And just like that, this old master was clumsily taken home by her. Listening to her incoherent and utterly foolish apologies, I wanted to self-immolate on the spot. Fortunately, after some twists and turns, I ended up in the right hands. A professor who also runs a company, now that's a proper owner for me. But what I didn't expect was that he was a hopeless romantic. Right now, he's flipping through my pages, muttering to himself. A confession, how can I confess in a novel way so she won't find it boring? I stroked my beard, smiling at the young man before me. Finally, my bellyful of knowledge has a use. Let this old master lend him a hand. A breeze came in through the window, and I used its force to flip myself to the promotional text on my cover. Love makes the proud bow and the timid brave. And you, my child, need not feel insecure, need not hesitate. A sincere and passionate love will never be scattered by the wind. Hearts in love will always find their kindred spirit. If your heart feels the same as mine, then take me with you. Starting bid of $1, reserved only for a specific person.